Save COD charges by sending check or money order or use your credit card.
This is CNN.
Ross Perot picks a pair of political pros to run his campaign. Can Hamilton Jordan and Ed Rollins produce another winning campaign? As the curtain rises on the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, what environmental problems face the planet? And the young Elvis or the old Elvis? Graceland waits for the nation's stamp of approval.
From CNN, this is The World Today with Frank Sesno in Washington.
Catherine Cryer is off today. Thanks for joining us. We start with the latest wrinkle in the peculiar canvas of this year's campaign portrait. And for the two parties, it is not a pretty picture. The day should belong to Bill Clinton. He clinched the Democratic nomination yesterday as the primary season concluded, after all. George Bush should be celebrating. He's unchallenged within the GOP. But it is Ross Perot who's gloating and who is stealing the headlines. Our Tony Clark talked to Perot earlier today and joins us now from Dallas with the day's remarkable developments. Tony?
Well, you know, Frank, it was just hours ago that Ross Perot knocked both President Bush and Bill Clinton for a political loop with his strong showing in the exit polls in those final primaries. And then just hours after that, he dropped his second political bomb, hiring both former Carter administration Chief of Staff Hamilton Jordan and the man who engineered Ronald Reagan's 1984 presidential re-election campaign, Ed Rollins. Rollins and Jordan are both political pros. One will handle the day-to-day work for the Perot campaign. The other will oversee strategic planning. Rollins, whose wife resigned from a White House position earlier today, said President Bush is vulnerable this election year.
I think the vulnerability the president has is the American public today is looking to the future, not the past. And I think that obviously when you've been around for as long as he has and many of his advisors, it's awful hard to be the change agent.
And I have is that in trying to contribute to the campaign, not to bother with those things about it that are so special and unique. And I think Ed and I both have that concern. I mean, there's something going on out there in the country. I think it's directly related to the degree of frustration people feel with government, concern about the problems facing our country and its future. And our job is to come in and hopefully contribute.
One of the things that both Ed Rollins and Hamilton Jordan said is that they want to learn, they want to, in fact, Hamilton Jordan said he wants to immerse himself in the Perot campaign to look at what has brought Ross Perot in such a short time to such a point where in several of the national polls that he leads people that have been either in office or campaigning for some time. Rollins, by the way, said his wife will continue to support George Bush, even though she has left the White House, and he said they have simply decided that they will not talk politics for the next several months. As for the advice that he says he will give Ross Perot, Ed Rollins says he will simply tell the Texas billionaire what he needs to know, not necessarily what he wants to hear, and it will be up to Perot to decide how to respond to that information. That is a role for Jordan and Ed Rollins that Ross Perot says he is in favor of.
What we're trying to do is get the talent in here to make sure we can deliver on my commitment to run a world-class campaign. They will not be my handlers. They will not get me up in the morning, dress me, give me words to say, tell me what to do and where to go. That's not their role. Their role is to bring the experience of what's involved in the massive campaign in terms of getting it organized, making it work.
On a couple of other points, both gentlemen, both Hamilton Jordan and Ed Rollins, denied published reports that they had been offered upwards of $5 million to join the campaign. Ed Rollins said that he doesn't get involved in campaign for the money, and Hamilton Jordan said that he was the one who called up the Perot campaign early on after seeing Perot on Larry King's show and offered his services. They also talked about the naming of a vice presidential nominee, said there is no rush for that. As for the impact of the exit polls, the efforts of the volunteers in the Perot campaign, and the hiring of two political professionals, Ed Rollins said if he were in a position, a different position, if he were sitting in the White House right now advising George Bush about his campaign strategy, he said he would be scared. Frank?
Tony, what's the significance of hiring a Republican and a Democrat for this man, Ross Perot, who so many people say they really don't know what he stands for?
It is a balancing measure. I think the best thing, in fact, there were some reports that Ed Rollins would not come on board unless Hamilton Jordan was on board. It increases the independent nature of this campaign, the phenomenal nature of this campaign, and it is kind of a soothing. Some people had suggested that if you add political professionals, that it would do a couple of things. It would paint Ross Perot more as an insider in this campaign, and it would paint him with a brush that is described by the people that are brought in. If he had just gotten an Ed Rollins, it would have painted him with more of a Republican brush, a Hamilton Jordan, a Democratic brush. This keeps him right in an independent position.
Okay, Tony Clark, thanks much. And Tony Clark's interview with Ross Perot can be seen in its entirety during CNN Prime News at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time this evening. Well, Ross Perot's gain, as we mentioned, is President Bush's loss. Sherry Rollins, wife of new Perot strategist Ed Rollins, did in fact resign from her job at the White House today, where she helped polish the president's image. In her resignation letter, she told Mr. Bush she believes his re-election is crucial. Vice President Dan Quayle says he's, quote, delighted Ed Rollins is in Perot's camp now. He suggests more will probably be learned about Perot's positions. The administration has displayed thinly veiled contempt toward Perot till now. Hoping to reach a larger audience and give his campaign a boost, President Bush has scheduled an unusual primetime news conference tomorrow evening. CNN plans live coverage beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. After the president's news conference, we'll be joined live by Tom Luce, chairman of Ross Perot's campaign. Well, Democrat Bill Clinton barely had time to savor yesterday's primary wins when news of Perot's hires hit. He had a somewhat harsher reaction, maybe even cynical to Perot's choices, saying they prove Perot is not a political outsider and that he's buying good political help. Of Rollins and Jordan, Clinton said he'd like to know how much Perot is paying them. Bill Clinton will speak out tomorrow night on Larry King Live, and you can see that at 9 o'clock here on CNN. Well, how might all this shake out in the minds of the voters? Our public opinion specialist, Bill Schneider, joins us now. All right, how will it shake out in the minds of the voters?
Well, clearly Ross Perot is taking a risk. I mean, he's making himself seem more plausible to the Beltway insiders. They are saying, when they look at Ed Rollins and Hamilton Jordan, both of whom have run successful presidential campaigns, the Washington insiders, the press corps is saying, wow, this guy is serious. He's for real. On the other hand, how will it play outside the Beltway? Will the voters look at Ross Perot and react the way Bill Clinton said, that he's really not, he's a conventional politician, he's hiring Beltway insiders? I'm not so sure, because the coup here was to hire a Democrat and a Republican at the same time. Ross Perot has always said his intention is to hire people, the best of both parties. It confirms his image that he's someone who will take from all different political directions, and it's a thumb in the eye of both the Democrats and the Republicans.
So you were talking with some of Perot's activists when you were out there wandering around with them last week. How are they likely to look on all of this?
I think they'll be delighted, because they'll say, this shows the kind of man we're supporting. He's above political parties.
Even though this is supposed to be a grassroots campaign?
It is a grassroots campaign, because they see themselves as getting involved in something. You know, Ed Rollins said something very interesting. He said, this isn't a campaign, this is a movement. And what he meant by that is there are people getting involved in politics out there, volunteers. I saw them forming a speakers bureau in Orange County to volunteer to go around Orange County, California, speaking for Ross Perot. This is the kind of personal involvement at the grassroots that you don't see in political campaigns anymore. They're all run by professionals. They don't involve people.
Perot is said to be the empty vessel into which Americans may pour whatever they want in this campaign year. How is this likely to flesh out some of his particular positions on issues?
Well, as the campaign goes on, he's going to have to answer a lot more questions. He's going to have to say where he stands on a lot of issues. The White House has been licking its chops, saying, you just wait until he has to take a position on a whole range of issues.
And Jordan said no rush to positions.
That's exactly right. They're not rushing to positions, because Ross Perot's strategy has been, I want to be all things to all people. That can't continue. As he names more staff people, he's going to begin to define himself. As he names his vice presidential candidate, he's going to define himself. If he were to name, say, Jean Kirkpatrick, that could alienate an awful lot of people, and it could attract some people. As he answers questions about what he's going to do about the deficit in his position, it's automatically going to mean he's going to look more and more like a conventional politician.
Okay, Bill Schneider, thanks very much. And erasing the lines on age, have scientists stumbled upon the key to removing wrinkles? Also ahead, the votes are counted and will take you to Graceland, where Elvis fans sweat out the verdict on which stamp will be king. We'll be back.
We just put 70,000 miles on a Plymouth Acclaim, the lowest priced 6-passenger car in America. Then we asked 100 drivers to compare the Acclaim with this new Honda Accord for comfort, performance, and overall superiority. 59 out of 100 preferred the Acclaim overall. We were blown away by the results, and so was the Accord.
Now get $1,000 cash back on Plymouth Acclaim.
Behold the passion and pageantry of the noble warrior within. Armed with a snapper recycling mulcher mower with its 2x2 split-level blade. 2 blades for the way up, 2 blades for the way down. Their Ninja 2x2 blade cuts every blade of grass who knows how many times. It's also handy that I don't have to take the time to bag. Looks like I did. Snapper. Anything less just won't mulch it. Now pay nothing down and no payments until January.
Yes, give me a kiss to build a dream on. My imagination will drive upon a kiss. Sweetheart, I ask no more than this. Kiss to build a dream on.
Your ship is in. Crown Cruise Line.
I swim, I jog. I love junk food. Sometimes even I get constipation.
Now, X-Lax pills give you 3 choices. Regular, extra gentle, or new maximum relief. X-Lax for regular people who sometimes aren't.
For many people, alcohol is an obsession that often results in anxiety, depression, or other emotional problems. It's okay to ask for help. I did.
Call Woodridge now.
The Earth Summit opened today in Rio de Janeiro with calls for increased international cooperation on the environment. UN Secretary General Boutros Boutros-Ghali opened the conference asking for 2 minutes of silence on behalf of the Earth. He blamed rich nations for the Earth's rising temperature, and he said poor countries are at fault for destroying their own resources. On the conference table, agreements on several issues, including global warming, technology transfer, and population control. It turns out U.S. employers may have slashed more jobs during the recession than previously thought. The Labor Department has revised its estimates on the number of jobs lost. It now says 2.1 million jobs disappeared during the recession. Earlier, it put the number at 1.7 million. Connecticut has become the first state to ban the use of radar guns. The act comes not out of sympathy for speeders caught unawares, but for police who use the handheld devices. Some officers say they're afraid long-term exposure to radar guns may cause cancer. An estimated 75,000 handheld mounted radar units are used by police throughout the United States. Researchers say it may soon be possible to erase the lines of age with poison. CNN's Gary Tuckman has more on this new wrinkle in the eternal quest for youth.
Nearly all adults experience the wrath of wrinkles, but for some people it's especially agonizing. Some New York researchers say it's for people like that there is something like this. It's called botulinum toxin. It's a poison produced by the bacteria in improperly preserved foods that has already been used for patients with facial spasms and tics. But now doctors say they have discovered another use for it.
We know from looking at patients who have had facial paralysis or Bell's palsy that all of those wrinkles, irrespective of how deep they are, disappear. And from that and from some of our other work, we've learned that controlling some of these muscles will get rid of a number of the wrinkles.
Doctors currently repair wrinkles with surgery or with fillers like collagen. But the botulinum toxin procedure is a major departure. It's injected like collagen, but
this works on a different principle, that the muscle attachments to the skin are contracting and pulling the skin in, and by weakening that, you're flattening out the wrinkle.
This was Deborah Gribben before she had her wrinkles flattened last summer. After she had the injections, this is how she looked. Now, 9 months later, she's back. Not because anything went wrong, but because the results aren't permanent. Follow-up shots are necessary.
The doses that we're using are minute compared to the doses that may hurt people. That we've had now over 8 years of experience using even higher doses with a minimal side effects. And and so we believe that the doses we're using are safe in this research study.
Within 36 hours, Deborah will literally wipe the frown off her face as her facial nerve impulses deaden.
It really does nothing to you. Absolutely nothing. He doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt afterwards, and you have no wrinkles.
The FDA has approved the toxin for facial disorders. A larger study will be necessary before it's approved for cosmetic reasons. The researchers say all their patients report the procedure is relatively pain-free. As far as side effects go, an occasional temporary droopy eyelid or eyebrow have proven to be the major wrinkles. Gary Tuckman, CNN, New York.
Computer technology takes another step closer to the human mind. It may sound like a simple scanning device, but it is not, and we'll show you what's so different about it when The World Today returns.
The following commercial announcement was recorded prior to Michael Landon's death. Mr. Landon authorized its continued broadcast because of his belief in the content of this program.
Hi, I'm Michael Landon. For the last 3 years, John Ritter has been telling America about where there's a will, there's an A video seminar for students that has literally turned C and D students into A students, almost overnight. Our hope was to help thousands of students do better.